So today I'm super excited to show you 3 exercises that I do in order to improve my dance. 2 of them are lower body and actually one of them is on the floor. So here we go. So the first exercise I'm going to talk about is something that we are pretty familiar with. And one of the reasons why I'm even going over exercises is because a lot of the times when we start to dance, we don't condition our body appropriately for the movement that we're doing. So this movement this exercise is really designed for when we do level changes low, we do seated hip circles and all that good stuff. And if you're kind of guessing what it is, it's squats. It's not something that's like very fancy or anything, but when you do your squats, you're doing it very intentionally. So when I do my squats, you can either be a little bit more wide set just outside of your shoulder frame, or you can be within your shoulder frame. It's probably better to be about your shoulder frame only because when we dance, we're typically not going and doing level changes like this. So you want to be replicating the way that you're going to be dancing as much as you can in your conditioning, so that way it helps your body build those muscles to sustain those movement. So when I do my squats, I'm not thinking about, oh, let me just do squats, go down, go up, to go down, go up. No, I'm really thinking about how can I protect my body when I'm dancing. And when we do seated hip circles and you're coming around and then you come back like this, what position am I in? I'm in a squat position, so to speak. I want to make sure that my butt is back, my knees aren't jetting past my toes and all that good stuff in order to protect my body. Otherwise, we're not going to be dancing for very long. So one of the things I want to pay attention to when I'm actually doing my squats is to engage my posterior chain. Meaning I'm going to engage my glutes and I'm going to engage my hamstrings all the way down the back of my body in order to support that standing back up as well as coming down. So when I do my squats, I'm not doing it willy-nilly and just going like this. What I want to be listening in my body for is that when I start to engage and come down and go into that seated position, am I engaging my posterior chain, the backside right here? So I have my feet facing forward and they're about shoulder width apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I push my hips back first, and like I'm going to sit on the toilet or something, right? And you're going to come down, you're going to keep your torso up, but not in a way that you're like overstraining it, and you definitely don't want to slump down like this. So just keep it up at a natural position, and your gaze, you want to be gazing forward, but that it keeps the alignment of your spine. So you don't want to be creaking your neck up like this, and you don't want to be looking down like this so you get that curve. So as I sit down, what I'm looking for is to feel it more in my glutes and in my hamstrings and not in my knees. And right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze in my glutes. Can you see it? I'm going to squeeze my glutes and my hamstrings, and that's how I'm going to push up, driving through my heel. So I'm going to do that multiple times. You can define what's appropriate for you. Obviously, if you're working with a personal trainer or go to a facility for fitness, then ask one of the professionals, hey, can you help me, make sure that I'm doing my squats correctly, because we need someone to check us and make sure that our technique is correct. And then ask them about, how do I make sure I can't engage my posterior chain? So when you ask them, they can watch, adjust you as necessary, making sure that your feet are in alignment with your legs and your hips and all that good stuff. So I'm not a fitness professional. I don't have like formal training necessarily. I've just worked out a lot. I've had personal trainers and I've been taught this. So I do want to preface that to make sure you know. Okay, but this is one of the exercises that I do to make sure that when I do level changes, my body feels safe. So as I come back right here, I'm going to squeeze my glutes and my hamstrings, and then I'm going to stand back up. Okay, and you can see that I'm still engaging my glutes. And then I will come back down again, and then squeeze and come back up. So if you were to do that without squeezing your posterior chain and then just standing back up and then engaging your posterior chain and then standing back up, you'll probably feel the difference between the two, even in your knees, just your knees alone, because when you don't engage any of that posterior chain, what ends up happening is a lot of the strain falls to your knees, and it's not meant to do that kind of movement over and over again. This is why we have large muscles to protect our knees. So for me, I would do like 3 sets of 10. right? And then that helps keep my body awake and alert for doing all these level changes. So I'd have 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do all of them in case you're doing them with me. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm also making sure that my knees stay over my toes are not coming out and not going in. 9 and 10. And you can start to feel that immediately, which is fantastic. So I love squats. They're great for strengthening your body in order to do those lower body exercises, like coming down here and then pushing back up. Because even when we do level changes and you are here and you push back up with this, you're engaging your posterior chain and pushing back up through here to protect the body. I love this exercise. I think it's amazing. And you get to lift your tush. The second exercise I love to do is great for balance. So if you're going into releve on one leg, or you're doing anything that just requires you to have more balance, which is pretty much everything we do, you need balance. I love unilateral squats. So maybe I'm on a squat kick, I don't know, but I just find it's very helpful for my body. Even at one point, I had a little bit of pain in my left hip, and I was like, oh, why do I have pain in this hip? And I would do my unilateral squat on this side, and it would immediately, I'm not even kidding you, immediately release the pain in my body. So I realized, I was like, oh, something's not strong over here. I need to build the muscle around it and work my hips. So I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen for you. If you have hip pain, obviously you need to get checked by a medical professional, but I wanted to make sure that I was like, okay, is it just exercise, lack of exercise, or whatever it was? And I noticed, I was like, oh, this exercise is great for my hip. Okay, so great for balance. Balance is really important in our dance, but sometimes we tend to only focus on the core, but there's multiple parts of the body that actually help to maintain balance. We talk about the core a lot, we talk about the back a lot, but we also need to be strong in our hips. Hips are a huge part of your balance, as well as your legs, into your ankles, into your feet. So really paying attention to your body in this way is very important. The other reason why I'm doing it one side at a time is because sometimes our body tends to compensate for the weaker side. And if I want to really use my left hip in dance, but my right side is compensating for it, it's not gonna work out the best that it could for me. The other thing I notice is that one hip is typically stronger than the other. And for me, since I was driving a lot, I would get out of the car like this, I would step and push up. And so I noticed how much more strength and balance I had on my left side versus the right. So even the way that you just live your life and do things, it can really impact your balance and the balance even between your body. So some of my students now, they actually just turn their full body out first and then they step out. And if you're like feeling a little uncomfortable, check how you're doing things day to day, right? Check if you're like using one side more than the other, and it could explain this like difference between why one side is stronger, one side's weaker. But anyway, I digress. So for dance, balance is important. So what if you wanted to do, this is where it starts to apply, where if you wanted to do arabesque on one leg in releve, how long can you hold it there? Can you stay in balance? Is it really like, nope, and you fall, and moments like this, right? Or you're doing hip work and you're like, oh, this is really 1 foot at a time that I'm on my leg, on my feet as I'm doing my hip work. So all these moments where I really depend on balance on that one side to be right where I need it to be, it comes more to the front of my mind where I'm like, how do I strengthen those muscles in my body in order to make sure I can maintain the way I dance? So we talked about squats already. Unilateral squats is just essentially doing it all on one side. So if you need to hold something, you're more than welcome to hold something. So I'm going to grab my chair right here so I can show you if you were to hold something, this is what it would be. Okay. So I'm going to hold my chair on my right side right now, and then I'm gonna work my right leg. So you can do this without a chair, it just depends on where you're at. And you can either hover your foot right next to your other foot, you can lift it out to the side, you can go right here, or you can just even bend it. Find what works for you and work up versus like trying super complex movement and more difficulty and then working your way back down. We don't want anyone to be injured. So now I'm here, I'm gonna do the exact same technique where I want to sit back first and then go as far down as I can, engage my posterior chain, and push myself back up. So the chair is your balance buddy, right? Just in case. So I'm gonna just have my foot right here next to me. And what I'm gonna do is you're gonna look down, make sure your foot is in alignment with your knee. So that way when you bend it, you're not bending it out like this or in like this and causing pain. So still making sure as you sit back, your knee does not jet past your toe. Engage your quads and your hamstrings and push back up. So I do 3 sets of 8 on each side. So I do 8 on this side, then I do 8 on this side, 1 set. Again, second set, and then again, third set. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hold this and go ahead and you can do this with me. Remember, if it hurts, then you need to take it down a notch and do it a little bit more simplistically, or something's out of alignment, or it's just not the right exercise for your body. So always listen, yeah? Okay, so I'm gonna sit back. I already did 1, yay! So then I have 1 or 2, 3, and you'll start to feel it on that side, 4, 5, 3 more, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so now I'm gonna do it from the side for you. So now I'm gonna be standing on my left side, still keeping my posture nice and up here until I come down. I'm floating my right leg and hoping I can stay in balance. Okay, here we go. So we have back 1. We're gonna do 8 of these. 2, 3, make sure you squeeze your glute and your hamstring as you come up. 4, I'm also paying attention to my knee, that it doesn't like so much. 5, 6, 7, and 1 more, 8. Woo! Oh, feel that burn. Okay, so one of the keys to this, to making sure that you're successful with it, is to go slow. Not only is it gonna build more strength around you balancing, but it's also gonna protect your body, because if you go fast, you're more prone to injury and more prone to doing it technically incorrect. So you wanna make sure that you go slow and go at your pace and your level. So don't try and go all the way down and then sit back up, and then you end up actually falling backwards or just not even being able to get yourself back up. Okay, if you don't want to use a chair, you can also use a wall. So I would take my floating leg, I would place it against the wall right here, and that would help guide me as I sit back and then come back up. So both of those are options for you. So take your time with it. Go slower, and definitely only go as far down as you can maintain protecting your body, as well as get back up. Well, hello there. No, I'm just kidding. So remember, I told you the last one was on the floor. So I use this exercise, and I don't use it as much now as I did in the beginning, because this is an awareness tool. I've taught my students this a lot, so that way if they're ever like, oh, I feel out of touch with my body, or I can't quite locate the muscles I'm using in order for like hip lifts and hip drops specifically, this is what I have them do. So what you're gonna do is you're actually gonna lie on the floor flat. If your lower back has pain, you can raise your legs. There's no problem with that. Hopefully my sound pack doesn't get in the way. So I'm gonna lay like this on the floor. And then what's gonna happen is you're gonna just relax your whole body. I'm gonna put one leg up so that way you can see that you can do it on both sides. So now what you want to do is you want to engage just this muscle right here and isolate this, and you want to see what it takes to pull this hip up into the rib and not move any other part of your body. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift and lift and lift and lift. And if you notice, I'm going to neutralize myself again. If I pull, I'm just releasing. I'm not pushing back down, which leaves my hip still slightly lifted closer to my rib cage. This is really important to note in this exercise. So when I come up like this and I just release it, you see how it's still kind of crunched right here? If I went back to neutral, this is where I am. So what I want to do is I want to practice on that one side, engaging that muscle and seeing which muscle it is that I use in order to raise my hip up into my rib. So this is an awareness exercise. This isn't something you would necessarily drill for stamina or even to strengthen the muscle. This is more of an awareness tool to make sure that you're engaging from that same spot. So you're going to lift and relax, lift and relax, lift and relax. And what you're looking for is to make sure that your back doesn't come off the ground, your torso doesn't move to try and meet your hip or any of that. You literally just want your hip. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I just did the right side, my right side. Now I'm going to do my left. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go back to my right, and now I'm going to lift and I'm going to hold. So I'm going to lift, hold, and release. Lift, hold, and release. Lift, hold, release. Lift, hold, and release. And now the other side. Lift, hold, release. Lift, hold, release. Lift, hold, release. Lift, hold, release. So you can go back and forth as many times as you need in order to get more familiarity with those muscles. Now, if I were to stand back up, which I'm going to be right here for right now, so I can keep that camera angle. What you could do now is you would stand back up and then you would do your hip lift. You could also do that same exercise pushing down, so you understand what it is to push your hip down into a hip drop. This has been very helpful for my students in identifying those muscles. It also helps for you to put your hands on your body while you're doing that exercise. So don't be afraid to feel the muscles working on yourself, so that way you can understand that when you get back up, you feel the same thing happening. Okay, so now if I were to do hip lifts right here, then I'd be able to lift, 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 and I would be able to feel that muscle being engaged again in order to get the movement. So I found this exercise very helpful just as an awareness tool, like I've said, so that way I make sure I'm engaging from the right spot when I'm using my hip drops and hip lifts muscularly. So try it out. Let's see how it goes. And then when you stand back up, see if you can still feel that same muscle engaging. So I hope these exercises were helpful. I found they've been very helpful for me as well as my students. So I hope you try them out and let me know how it goes. If you haven't already checked out my online classes, make sure that you do that. You can see the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching today. If you haven't subscribed to my channel only, make sure that you press the little subscription button below, as well as the little bell for all the notifications. Ding, 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 ding. And then, yeah, just do that. And that would be amazing.